thankful for the way these stories hold on to the lifetime we won't get back. I know these rivers carry on. People tend to stick to you after time. Places tend to do the same as we do. This river carries on and on.
Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake Lamore, and today we are joined by someone that I don't know very much about and that always excites me the most compared to guests that I've had on the podcast, where I might know quite a bit about them because maybe they're a public figure or maybe they're just someone that I've personally known for years. But to have someone that you meet by accident, and then you learn just maybe one little fact about them, and then it just kind of bites you a little bit. You're like, oh, I want to know more about that person. I want to know their story. And I am pleased to welcome Demarco Hampton of a Kopious Lifestyle to the podcast. Welcome, Demarco.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back here. I think, was it summertime when we first met? That
It was.
And now it's November. We're recording this on November 26th. I'm pretty sure by the time this episode is released, it's going to be December. So, it's amazing how quickly time passes on.
Yes.
So, we met through a mutual friend, Jeff Davis. He's from Fly Above It. That's what people know him by. Another really great guy as well. So I was really glad that he linked us up together. And both of you came over that day back in the summertime. I can't remember exactly what day it was, but regardless, we sat here in this studio. We didn't do any recording or anything like that, but we just sat and we talked, and it was just, we had a great conversation between the three of us. We agreed that we wanted to make sure to sit down again and get into your story. So if I remember correctly, you are originally from the south side of Chicago, Demarco?
Yes, Argyle Gardens, yeah.
Okay, so what year were you born?
1978.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 44.
Okay, so what's your family's history? Had they been in Chicago for a long time, or?
Yes, actually, my entire family from Chicago. Most of them from the south side area. We was in the projects, Argyle Gardens. My mother lived there, and my grandmother lived there. I think I was around 10 when we moved to Kankakee. Yeah.
You said Argyle
Gardens. It's on 131st.
Okay.
Yeah, in Chicago. It's the last projects in Chicago, really the last part of Chicago before you get to the suburbs.
Okay. And then 10 years old, you found your way to Kankakee?
Well, my mother thought that moving to Kankakee would be a better place for us to live.
And that would have been, what, in the 80s or 90s?
Yes, definitely in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. You're born in 78. So did you have family here already? Did she know some people that lived?
My godmother lived here.
Okay.
She lived here. She moved from Chicago maybe 3 or 4 years prior to us coming here.
What do you remember from your childhood growing up on the south side of Chicago? What was life like for you there with you and your family before coming to Kankakee?
For some reason, I always thought my auntie was rich because when we was living at, it was a little different. It was, we was struggling a lot more. And they had some stuff. So every time my birthday come around, any type of holiday or any type of thought of me needing something, I asked them for something and they always came through for me. So I thought they was rich. Yeah.
That's funny. It is. I always assumed the same thing when I was a kid, that my parents were rich. Yeah. Your grandparents and so on and so forth. You think, oh, they've got all the money, right?
Yeah. But one thing for sure, I knew we was poor. That's one thing I knew.
Well, you say the projects, and what do you mean by the projects to explain to someone that doesn't understand what exactly that is?
On a surface, it's an area where it's cheap to live, and that's what a lot of people in the inner city will go to if they can't afford to live nowhere else or outside of the city.
So it's like Section 8.
Yeah, well,
kind of.
not necessarily Section 8, but it can be involved in that. But it's more so just low income housing.
Okay. And so what are besides thinking your auntie and your grandmother were rich, what other things you remember from living and growing up for, the first 10 years on the South Side?
I remember doing we was a part of the program. I forgot the name of it. We would go and do flips. We would do backflips. We would play sports, play video games, tumble. And we would take that same stuff out of the thing and we'll flip outside. I remember one time we was flipping off the church steps. And my brother my oldest brother flipped off the church steps and almost broke his neck.
Oh, man.
And I think that's the time we stopped doing that.
Probably.
But we was always athletic and doing flips and stuff.
So then I guess fast forwarding to when you moved to Kankakee, was it a big change for you and your family? Did your money go a little farther? What happened 10 years old moving to Kankakee? What was that? Was that a good change for you?
I thought it was. I really didn't know at that age, but I thought it was. But when we got there, I think that's the age I fell in love with football. My oldest brother fell in love with football, and my youngest brother. We first played for Alzarelli, but financially, it was still bad. And I believe a lot of times it be our own fault we in our position. And I believe my parents were the reason we was in that position. We all got to take responsibility for our actions. And some of it was due to drugs. Some of it due to lack of education, but that's what it was.
So what were your parents like then?
My mother and my father, they were married. My father, he went to jail when I was around 6. I seen the police come handcuff him, take him to jail. And,
what was he arrested for?
I think a robbery. I'm not sure, but a robbery, I believe.
So I'm assuming when you moved to Kankakee, was he still in
prison? Yeah.
He was still in prison. So it was just your mom raising you and how many siblings?
Maybe a year after my father was in prison or in jail, my mother met another guy, But to talk about that, they all had the same characteristics. He was the same type of guy, so the condition that we was in, it remained the same.
So what was your mother like?
Oh, my mother, she was the sweetest woman ever. And it's sad because I got a lot of her characteristics. She would give anything to anybody. She would even give more than she had. She used to allow people to move in with her. They wouldn't have the half of the rent. She wouldn't even say nothing, even though she was in a little bad position herself. And, she always gave. She gave. So, and that probably played a part in it as well, because I see it in myself that giving too much, or you don't put yourself first, then it can be, because I always give too much, and that's what I always was held back from really doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing. And I think she had that problem as well.
Yeah, you can't cut yourself short. You can give, but you don't want to cross that line. It's so easy to cross that line and give everything that you have, even though you're cutting your slice of the pie that you're supposed to eat too in order to survive. So I definitely get where you're going with that.
Before you go further,
yeah.
This is crazy. My mother, I know she was like that. It's like I inherited that. And to me, it seems like...
Well, you watched it growing up, right? I mean...
I watched it growing up and didn't like it. It was okay until the point it wasn't. But later on in my life, I started to realize I'm the same way and probably a little worse, And it's like, how can I break this habit? And I think something that you inherit is a little harder to change opposed to something that you'd have picked up along the way. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Sure, yeah. So then your father, what was he like What are your memories of your father?
Honestly, my fondest memory of my father, not fondest, my only memory of my father was he had a belt tied around his arm, shooting heroin in his arm. And I'm choking up because I really don't want to say it, but that's the only memory that I really have of him, with a belt tied around his arm, shooting a syringe needle in his veins. Yeah.
And you would just walk into the room and he would be doing that?
I remember one time, because I wanted M&Ms that was on the table, I walked in the room. I seen him and his friends, and I seen an M&M. So that's that memory.
So did you ever see him again after he was hauled away?
I saw him one time. I got an uncle named Edwin, his brother. He really was like my father for a long time. He would do the things. He actually made me understand what a father was like. I don't know, because my father was going through whatever he was going through. I didn't understand it then, but my uncle stepped up and helped out. So,
do you remember when your dad was being hauled away? How did your mom explain that to you? Did she just say, "Daddy's going away for a little while"? Like how?
I can't remember exactly what my mother was saying, but I remember she going to the door. She said, "I think it's the police." That's all I remember. I remember him running back in the room, and that's all I remember. And I know for a long time I didn't see him. I remember going to visit him in Cook County Jail. And as we talk about my story later, I'm going to reveal something that was the most craziest thing to remember, and the way I remembered it. That was the last time I seen him after that day. And when I saw him again, my uncle, the uncle that I mentioned, he brought him down here to Kankakee to see us. And I was so excited. And I think my uncle recorded it. It was like I was trying to talk to him, trying to get him to know who I am. And we was trying to do so much at one time. And then after that, I don't know how long after that, but I got a call was saying my father had OD'd.
So not too long. When he came back, the last time you saw him and you were living in Kankakee, how old were you at that time? Were you a teenager by then?
I think I was 12. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Or
12.
Not quite
Close,
a teenager.
yeah.
Okay. And then it wasn't long after that time when you were 12 that he had passed away.
A year later, I believe.
Gosh. I can only imagine. I can't imagine what that must feel like. So that's a lot going on, moving to Kankakee and those things happening. How do things go on from there when you move to Kankakee, 10 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, your father dies? How does that impact you at that moment? How is that shaping you?
Before that, what really shaped me? Poverty. Poverty and that as well. But my oldest brother, we both started playing football at the same time. I didn't really focus on football as much, but I was really good. He went on to be real good. Then my younger brother come behind him, and it was like he was the hybrid. He had my ability and my older brother ability, and he was just great. But we wanted to be, our dreams was being football players. We wanted to be football players, and we worked towards that. But I don't know if I was that materialistic or that conscious, but my condition bothered me, growing up.
Living in poverty. Because your mom, she's a single mom, or maybe she has a new partner in her life by now, but she's still struggling, I would imagine, paying the bills, right?
When you got a man in the house that's anchoring a woman, that's going to hold her down. So she got 3 kids, and you pulling her down is just going to bring all y'all further down. So that was that.
So the new person she brought into her life was...
They all had similar characteristics. I don't know if she consciously did that, but later on in my life, I realized that. They all had similar characteristics.
Was her father like that?
I don't think my grandfather was. My grandmother, she was so strong. Her household was intact. So I don't know where she picked it up from. Or a lot of times a lot of our men destroy our women.
Well, what do you
You know.
remember, for example wise? Do you remember any direct examples of when you were growing up with your men that your mother had in her life?
My mother didn't have many men in her life. Only my father, when he passed away, when he went to jail, she had another boyfriend a year later, maybe. Could have been a little longer. Timing is a little off. So in my entire life, I only knew 3 men. My father and my 2 other stepfathers. The men, they had the same characteristics, so it's that behavior gonna perpetuate. It ain't nobody's there helping each other, so it's not gonna get better if that's the condition.
So you're starting to get into football as a teenager, right?
As a teenager, I was in football early in '85. I wanted to be. We fell in love with football. We fell in love with the Bears. As I got into 13, well, when I was 11, I was bad. My condition played a role in my behavior and my situation at home.
So what was your behavior?
My brothers, they stayed playing football, and they were really good at it. My behavior, I was stealing a lot. I was taking stuff, bikes, whatever it was. I just wanted things that I didn't have. And I stopped stealing at 15. I don't think I stole anything from 15 further. But I picked up a new habit. I started selling drugs. And that's why I say my condition played a major role on a lot of things I did,
How did the opportunity for selling drugs get presented to you? How did you get into that?
I found some. I found them. Some drug dealers was running from the police. It was me and my friend. I found them laying down. Actually, we was trying to help them find it. And I stepped on it. And I'm like, okay, this maybe can change my situation. And it was a few bags. Me and my friend shared them. And, it was scary. It was a scary thing to make that next step. But I knew I didn't want to steal anymore because I wasn't never a bad person. I didn't like to steal. So when I started to realize what I was doing, well, I let it go.
I mean, but you saw, obviously, with the opportunity to sell drugs, you're like, oh, well, here's an opportunity for me to make some money. Versus when you're stealing things, you're not necessarily turning around to sell them, right? You're stealing things for yourself most of the time, right?
I was stealing packs of cartons of cigarettes, selling them. Me and my friends, we would steal whatever it was that would help us. Help our situation. But, it's crazy. It's, you go from one thing, but nobody want to be labeled a thief. I would rather be labeled then. I would rather be, thief or drug dealer the same, but I wouldn't want to be labeled as a thief. Nobody wanted to be labeled as a thief. And a drug dealer, I didn't want to be labeled as that, but I grew into that because the money was fast and my mother hated it.
So your mom knew that you were doing this. How did she find out?
She come into the room one day. I had a plate. I think I was 15. I had a plate. It had maybe an 8-ball on it, probably less than that. And she seen the plate and a safety pin and the drugs. She thought I was using it. And I'm like, no, I'm not using it. I'm selling it. But my brother used to always say this. They used to say, always question my mother about our condition. Why is we got this? Why we don't have that? Why is this? Why is that? So I think she knew. And it was sad when I grew up and I realized it's like she had to accept it because she couldn't do nothing about it.
She didn't try to fight you on it.
She did, but she understood that she couldn't do nothing about it because she can't financially support us.
So, age 15, you start selling drugs. And how does that progress? And how long did you do that for?
They say drugs numb your brain more than one way. The way a drug addict was addicted to the drugs, I was addicted to them as well. The rush that you get from the transaction. And, it wasn't a lot of the situations they have now where they're going to set you up, everybody telling and all that. It was a lot easier. It was like towards the end of the crack era. We gravitated towards that. And I was able to have things that I didn't have before. because I don't recall ever having a phone where we could talk to our girlfriends over the phone.
Because this would have been what, the early 90s?
Early 90s, from the
Okay.
80s to 93 when I started selling drugs in 93.
Okay.
Before then, it was bad. It was, every house we lived in, the heat was off or the electricity was off. We got running stuff going to the neighbors, bringing water, all of that. So that's how it was. How can a kid really think or function properly when this is his condition? Especially an inquisitive child, a curious child, conscious child, an ambitious child. That was who I was. I just couldn't understand why I don't have what my friends have.
So I'm curious. I know like the first time you started selling drugs, it was just because they just plopped literally like right down in front of you. But then after that, like where do you get these drugs and how do you know where to get them?
Well, everybody watch movies. You know how to get drugs. It's right there. Everything you want is right there, bad for you. But the thing about the drugs is it destroys everybody that deal with it, the user and the seller. But you don't know that then. You don't know as a youngster. All you want to do is change your situation and your family situation. That's the thing. So the drugs are everywhere.
So then are you building your drug dealing game, your drug dealing sales? Are you getting into bigger and bigger sales or having more customers? How does that work and how does that escalate?
Well, I really don't want to touch too much on that because that ain't even the drugs. Everybody know how the drugs go. My thing about it is, what I did, I just wanted to never go back to struggling again. I never wanted to struggle again. I wasn't the type of guy that wanted to steal no more. I wasn't the type of guy that's going out there and try to rob you or trick you out of anything. But, in my mind, I was justifying what I was doing. I thought it was right because, hey, and I learned later, the government could change whether this is legal or illegal, and then it'll be right, just like they did weed. But my moral dilemma was I hated the way it treated people. So only did it because I had to at that time. I thought that's all I had to do. But, I wanted more. So I saved my money. I did a little better than a lot of the other guys around, I guess because I was a lot hungrier.
So when did that end for you then? What comes next?
When just like an addict got a detox, it take years, especially when I had no work experience. I had no work ethic. I had no education. So even if I wanted to do anything different, inadvertently, I would go back to it because what else do I know? Even after that, when I started realizing I had to learn something, I realized I needed my education. That's when things started changing. But still, I relapsed, not using. I relapsed selling. And the reason it was a relapse is because I gave everything away again. So it was crazy. And, I felt like, man, it just goes deep. It goes deep. But
so when did you finally, I guess, hit rock bottom and realize, okay, I am officially done with this?
And this is the saddest thing. 15 to, I think I was 42. I'm going to stop there on that because we going to get deeper and I'm going to explain later how I end up relapsing.
Okay.
And then when I stopped, but I can answer that at 42. At 42 and a half, maybe.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's almost, is that half? Yeah, I guess it is half.
Not most people dying in their addiction, whether it's the drugs, the using them, or the selling them.
Yeah. So where does Kopious lifestyle come into play then?
Okay. I'm gonna give a little backstory. Through all the drug dealing situations, I end up going to juvenile in 94. While I was in juvenile, my mother was killed. My mother was shot 3 times in the back of the head and 1 in the shoulder, I believe. And
do you know why?
Yeah, she was trying to help a woman that was getting beat up by her boyfriend. The woman didn't want help. And then, later on in life, I thought about that. My mother really gave to the point she gave her life. And I be thinking about, man, I cannot do that. It won't be the same way, or I don't know. But my mother was killed in 95.
Did that happen in Kankakee?
It did.
So this happens while you're away.
Yeah, I was away for 5 months. I had to see my mother shackled up. It was 5 months. It felt like a million years. I get out. I moved to Maywood. I moved to Maywood with my auntie and my uncle. They provided me with a whole better life, me and my little brother. My oldest brother, he stayed in Kankakee, but we was provided with everything. He showed me how, he the reason I fell in love with real estate. We would work for him. He would take us to, he took us to the Million Man March. We flew in a plane. We went to Washington, D.C. twice, I believe.
Wow.
We went to Texas. We was just doing stuff.
So very generous.
Yeah.
Definitely different lifestyle than what you were used to.
Yes, it was a totally different lifestyle, but we was causing my auntie and grandma so much pain because it was like, how can you take, I lived this way for maybe the first 17 years of my life. It's hard to change that overnight. And they couldn't understand it. I didn't understand it. I just wanted to be free because at 15, I had my own apartment. You know, had my own money and I was doing my own stuff. And at 17, I got to come live with you. And
you got used to providing for yourself.
And to change abruptly like that, not forcefully too,
right.
It's not going to happen. You know, it's going to take some time. And for me, it took a lot of time. We're going to fast forward 2002. The guy that killed my mother got shot. A close friend of mine did it. He said that I did it. Not my close friend, but the guy. He came to trial, testified on me. And honestly, I would have done it, you know. I was hurting, and this is why I was living, but I didn't do it. These people love my mother close to as much as I did, and my brothers. So, but anyway.
So you were pinned for shooting him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did 17 years in prison for something I didn't do. And during that time in prison, all the things that I was telling you about starting to come to my mind. So that was when I started to figure out, who am I? I talk about that in my book as well. Book coming out, The Pursuit of Excellence. Yeah. I had to figure out who I was, everything. And when I broke it all the way down, I didn't like what I saw I was in my 20s. Actually, I was in my 30s when I got to this point. When I broke it all the way down, I didn't like what I saw. I thought I was something that I wasn't. And I wasn't trying to portray somebody else. It was just, I thought this is who I was. And I truly believe that we are not the things we do. And then when I figured out who I was, all the things around me started to make sense. That's how I knew that, hey, these guys had the same characteristics as my mother. That's how I figured out when I was growing up, I was lazy. When I was in school, I didn't study, I didn't do anything in class because I was lazy. Things started clicking. So, yeah, once you get to know yourself and then, you know, and even still, I fast forwarded it all the way to this 17, but now let's go over to 96. In 96, I was incarcerated the first time for something I didn't do.
Oh, okay. What happened in 90s?
I beat the case then.
Okay.
The guy that shot my mother, no, actually, this guy didn't even shoot my mother, but he ended up getting shot. And they said that I did it. The person that did it actually went and told the police that he did it. But they didn't know that it was me. The actual the victims didn't know it was me. They thought it was me, but I ended up beating the case by the grace of God. But I saw so much in the court system because my older brother didn't. He wasn't there. He didn't do it, and he ended up getting 15 years for that crime. And I recall asking the prosecutor after I got out, after I beat my case, why, when you know he didn't do it? And that's another story, which is part of my story. And, you know, he said he was just doing his job.
What kind of evidence did they present to be able to?
In my case now, all they got is a guy saying I did it. And the evidence then, all they got is the lady and man. I truly believe that they believe that I did it. So, but the police, and they knew I didn't do it. The police and the prosecutors, but they said that we try to have the guy that did it come in because he was a juvenile. But that's what it was. And by the grace of God, I beat my case. My older brother had to do the time for it.
And so when you were in for 17 years, was that the full sentence, or did you
It was
get
23.
pardoned? Or did you just get out on...
The guy got shot in the leg.
Okay.
In the ankle, actually. They gave me 16 years at 85%, 7 years at 50%. And the 7 years was for a gun, which they said was used in the commission of the crime. A gun was never found. And I ended up doing 16 and almost 17, I believe. But throughout that time, it was rough. But I became a man inside of there.
What do you remember going in? Obviously, that wasn't the first time you had been to... Well, I guess that was the first real serious time you served, though, right?
That was the first time I did time. Well, that's actually my second time. But that was the first time I actually have to do time for something I didn't do.
Yeah.
You know what
so
I mean?
Your first day, you're walking in. I mean, you must have been full of anger, I imagine.
Well,
I mean, what do you remember from...
Well, it's a process to actually getting into Stateville where they bring you, or Menard. What I thought was, I didn't even really focus on so much of the time, because if you focus on doing 17 years, it'll destroy you. I asked myself, that's when I had that moment of clarity. I'm like, man, who are you? What are you? What do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go with your life? Like, man, because in my mind, I wasn't going to have to do all these 17 years. And if we could talk about the case just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Sure.
I don't care. It's part of my story. I'm okay with it. But during trial, or after trial, one of the jurors, the next day after the verdict was in, one of the jurors wrote the judge, and I remember it verbatim. This is what he said in the letter. He said, prior to being named to this jury, I decided that if 11 jurors had one opinion and I had another one, I would not be abstinent. I would change my vote to the majority view. I went on and followed through with that decision and gave out the last holdout position. That's verbatim. I remember that clearly. I was thinking, oh, this finna get me out. But it didn't work. And it was clear he had a preconceived notion. Prior to being named to the jury, he already had his decision made up. So that's a violation of my constitutional rights right there. But I wanted to touch bases on that, but it's just, yeah.
That is a fascinating piece to throw into that. So you're doing the 17 years. What goes on during that time? I mean, for you, I've always been curious. Do you feel like the prison system helped you in rehabilitating yourself?
The system didn't help me. The system always do. Well, the way the system is designed is doing what it's doing. It's doing what it's designed to do. And it's always, when it changes, then the system will help you. But until then, it's going to do what it was designed to do. But I changed me. I had to, it was a time I told myself, I'm going to war with me. I'm going to war with my flesh. I'm going to war with all my weaknesses, all my insecurities, all my shortcomings, all my fears. I say I'm at war with that, and I'm destroying you.
So there was no resources while you were in prison that kind of helped you making
resources.
This new person. I mean,
the resources is the books, the access to the books that you can purchase, that you can get from friends, other cellmates or inmates. And, they do have programs in prison that can help you. But, at that time, I don't know how the system's changed now. I mean, I couldn't even get into the college classes I wanted to until I was like 4 years short.
You mean away from being up?
Oh yeah, let me break it down.
Yeah.
I was 3 years shy of coming home.
Yeah.
And that was
that's a long time. So you were already in there for 10 years, over 10 years, and you can finally go to college.
Well, I was able to get my GED. You're going to be able to get your GED there. But as far as college classes, it's whoever got the shortest amount of time go first.
Oh.
And I had a lot of it.
Okay.
I had a lot of time, so it took a while.
Now that makes sense. I didn't realize how
I
that
wanted
worked.
I wanted to learn how to cook. I wanted to go to culinary arts. I wanted to be in automotive, all of those good classes, but I couldn't get them. But what I did was, thanks to a few friends, I was able to get into an industry. It's the bakery that was there. After I finished my marketing class and my business class, I went to the bakery, and there it's like you working for $1 an hour, 12 hours a day. It's really, really hot, always, even in this winter. So because it's a bakery, and it's in this industrial bakery.
Yeah, it's a big, big place.
Yeah, but there though, being there, I was around so many sharp men in that bakery and everybody. It was so much years of time in there. Guys in there 25 years, 40 years, 20 years, and my little 13 years or whatever I was. So it was a lot of time in there, but it was so many brilliant minds. And the group of individuals that I surrounded myself with, these guys helped propel me to the person that I am now. And it's crazy. In that bakery, I learned so much. I learned my work ethic. If you want better, you can have better. You can have anything if you want it, and you got enough desire and you put the work in, you will get it. And what I ended up doing was I ended up buying my daughter her first car from prison. I opened stock. Everybody was doing it. Everybody in there, this is the culture there. And these men took this initiative upon themselves. Hey, look, when I come home, I'm going to be better. Some guys had 20 years left. And some guys was in there for almost 20 years saving their money. So if you want better, you can have it.
And and that's obviously
even with
what
a
you
limited amount of resources.
Sure. And was that, I know we're talking about the book you're working on now, The Pursuit of Excellence, which will be out soonish.
In a couple months, yes.
Couple months. But this is your fifth book.
Yes.
So did you write your first one when you were in prison? And what was your first book about? The
first book I wrote was a product of my environment. I actually got it published while I was in prison.
Okay.
I gotta give big ups to Waylon Chambers. He believed in my vision, and he made it happen for me. That's like a brother to me. Yeah. So
that book kind of focused on like your upbringing.
No, it was a novel. It was an urban novel. It was it was very creative. It was really good. But
So what was the synopsis then of the book then?
It talk about the inner city life and how your environment can create situations that you would normally be in if this is your environment. And, it goes off into, it's about the things I experienced, It was a really well put together novel. And, I did a part 2 to that. I did a couple more novels, but I evolved. And even though all the novels had a meaning behind it, a powerful message behind it, I had to evolve from that. That's part of that, that addiction, that lifestyle. So I had to evolve from that. And this pursuit of excellence, I started this book like on my 14th, 15th year in my head. I didn't know the name of it. I knew I was going to come up with something powerful.
Your 14th or 15th year in prison. Okay.
No, maybe, yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Maybe 4th or 15th year in prison.
So when it came time for you to come out, were you scared? Were you scared to come out? Were you scared to come back into the world thinking that you would succumb to the old lifestyle?
That is a very good question. Fear of, excited, ready. I had anybody that know me, they was like, you ready. If anybody gonna make it, you're gonna make it. But I did have doubts. I had doubts that I can reach my full potential. I had doubts because I didn't have many haters. most people wanted me to do good. And I was like, can I live up to that expectation? The expectation I put on myself is really even heavier than that. But can I live up to me? But yeah, coming home from prison, I had almost $10,000. I had $1,000 in General Electric. I had a bank account. I had bought my daughter stuff. I came out ready. I came out ready for the world. My body was together. My mind was together. And I thought I fixed a lot of my issues, my character flaws. Most of them I did.
So getting out, so what was the year when you did get out?
2019.
Okay. So 2019, you get out of prison, and where does life go from there?
Remember, I said I was with I lived with my auntie
Yes.
and uncle when I was younger.
Yes.
My auntie allowed me to come parole to her house in Maywood.
Okay.
They embraced me with open arms. I had money, so I was okay. They didn't have to really give me anything. The issue with me was trying to get my license. And, I don't want to really talk about this part because I don't want to talk about her like that. I don't want to be negative to her, but I end up moving away with someone, quit my job and moved away. I put myself in a position where I lost everything that I had. And I was trying to build a brand then, and it wasn't working.
You were trying to build Kopious
I was trying to build
then?
Kopious. I had all these
Okay.
plans, but I still had that addiction of giving everything away. I realized that money that I had, I gave most of it away and didn't spend hardly any on me. And, I did make a few bad Kopious decisions and lost maybe $1,500 or $2,000. That was about it. When I put myself in that position, I end up going back to that lifestyle, that old addiction. For 2 months, I did it. I hated it. I recall crying Michelle, and she was right there by me, and I was saying, I hate it. I hate doing this because the addict was crying, asking for the drugs. I really didn't want to give it to her because I gave her stuff before. And while she waiting out there, I'm like, man, I don't want this. I was in tears. I end up giving it to her. But see, that's what my mind was. I didn't want this. I had no plans on going back. But I ended up getting caught 2 months later.
So you get caught, and then what happens? This was 2 months after you got out?
No, 11 months.
Oh, 11 months.
So
okay.
the process of me moving.
It was 2 months after you moved. Okay.
No, not 2 months after I moved, but 2 months after I moved back to Kankakee.
Oh, okay.
Because I wasn't in Kankakee. And I really didn't want to come back to Kankakee, But I came back to Kankakee 2 months and put myself, and that was the hardest. That was the hardest thing ever to deal with. I was in tears. I was embarrassed, ashamed. I let my kids down. I let me down. And I'm like, man.
So at that point, you're thinking, I got to find something else. So what did you find? What did you do?
Man, I tightened up my boots. I figured it out. And that's when the rest of excellence and everything you do came about. Okay. So, everything that I experienced, it made me stronger. And I'm experiencing so much more now. And the beauty of it is, I've been blessed with so many great people around me. Jeff Davis helped me in so many ways. You got Dad Grant, you got Andrew Eggleston. My brother, my youngest brother helped me through the first beginning of everything. So, but yeah, Free the Guys, Day Brands, Apply Pressure, Fly Above It. These guys, we come together as brothers. And we motivate one another. And, that's why I'm able to sit right here today and talk to you about Kopious lifestyle, the pursuit of excellence,
Yeah, and I kind of want to learn more about Kopious lifestyle. And I guess it aligns right with your book of pursuing excellence, right? I mean,
it's a practice behavior, being excellent in everything you do. It's not perfect. It's just trying to be the best you possible. When you see things that's wrong with you, you try to work on them and fix them. You're not looking for blame. You just focusing on trying to be the best you possible. And if it's something that you practice every day, It becomes your lifestyle. And that's what it is, Kopious lifestyle. And with my brand, I try to have quality. Everything should be the best you can do or be. So yeah, that's what Kopious is. That's what it means. And I try to live that every day. We fall short, but you fix those little things. You say, okay, why I didn't do what I was supposed to do today? What's the reason? So you identify those things and you work on them.
Yes, absolutely. And one little thing at a time. You can't do it all. And I know part of Kopious lifestyle too, and obviously just your lifestyle now, kind of being reborn, is helping the younger generation, helping the kids, right? How do you help mentor kids?
Jeff Davis, he had brought me in, because this what he was doing. He was coaching and, mentoring kids, doing a Man Up event, the dad program, those things. And this what I've always done anyway. We haven't went into how I always would help people around the community,
yeah.
But this is who I've always been. So this is perfect for me. And, I got information that I could share and hopefully it could help somebody else. So what we do is when we see a child that need help or a young teenager that's going through things that we experience, we try to meet them where they are, understand them. No matter what you do or who you dealing with, the first thing you need is an understanding. So we try to understand the child or the teenager, and then and because we got a group of men with all different attributes, and we figure out who best to suit this individual. And we go from there.
Yeah, because obviously your experience is a little different than Derek Grant's or Jeff Davis, or everyone's story is a little bit different. But the fact that all of you combined have gone through a lot of these similar things that kids, unfortunately, continue to go through, it's good that we have you in our community, because out of anyone, you would be the ones to be able to identify what these kids are actually going through, even though they haven't said one single word about it. You can just kind of tell because you yourself have been there and you can see those red flags popping up. You're like, this reminds me of when I was 8 and I remember this and this thing happening to me. And I can kind of see that happening with this kid right now. So, you talk about getting down on their level, but I mean, how do you do that?
You find out what they like, what they experiences are. You find out what they dreams are, what they dislike. And then when we break that down, we figure out, okay, Jeff may be good with him, Andrew may be good with him, or I think Dre, Derek, whoever we think fit for him after we do our profile on this guy, But the end goal is to figure out ways to reach them, whether we have to take them out of their environment or communicate with their parents and try to, reach them that way. And we genuine. We not doing this for no money. I don't get paid for donating 100 shirts. I don't get, I want to see kids do better because we struggle. We struggle. A lot of us, a lot of people that I grew up with. And the main thing I want people to know, even grown-ups, once you get to know who you are, the whole world will open up to you. That don't mean you're disciplined enough to change, but you will identify those things that you're doing, and then you're accountable for them, or you're going to be held accountable, or you take accountability for them. If you want to do better, you accept accountability and you work on all those little things. And my goal right now is to try to figure out how we can get kids to know who they are, even at their tender age. So they won't be so impressionable and vacillate with every fad. Because now, look at it. Was trending is killing. It didn't escalate to this. All those things that was moving up to this, now it's to the ultimate. I kill you, I'm revered. I could be the dirtiest, the brokest, the grimiest, but if I kill you, I'm kind of looking like a star. I could be a person that don't even like myself, but if I kill somebody, this is what the kids think is important. And I see them, though. I see the 18-year-olds. I saw them in prison. I saw the 18-year-olds and I saw the 60-year-olds. The only difference is the age, because one has lived in there since he was 18.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he was that vibrant dude with all the girls, with all the money. You know, with probably got a nice position in the organization. All of those things that you look at and think is something you should want to do. And that's him in the infirmary, 60 years old on dialysis. He done spent his last 30 years or so trying to figure out how to get out. And 18, he was trying to figure out how to get in. So when you see that, when you experience that, and you know that could be you, and you know that's your friends, some of your friends, you want that to change, because every day, honestly, every day I wake up, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for freedom. I'm grateful for family. And I'm grateful that nobody has died, you know, because I don't, you know, it's just, so our goal is to definitely do that. And everybody know I'm not perfect. I went through so much. I done made so many mistakes over and over. I done had friends look at me like, man, come on, man. And I gotta accept it. And, you know, and I do want to give another, this guy I respect highly, because he was there through it all. 17 years he was there through my whole incarceration. He always pushed me, motivated me. Just like he the reason I surround myself with certain men now. Lincoln Lee, got it, man. He the reason I wrote a book. He actually taught me how to write books. He taught me how to write books. I had sent him I thought I knew what I was doing on my first book. I wrote some stuff out and sent it to him. He sent it back with because at this time, he had already had 5 books published.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking at this stuff. I was so discouraged. But I knew myself at that time, so I knew how to fight through that.
Now, I know another thing that I was curious is your view on women. Do you have a certain view on women? I know that you wanted to share.
Yeah, definitely. Women. I watch women. I watch my mother. I watched my grandmother, my auntie. I watched so many mothers carry the load of the whole household. If she had to put the house itself on her back, she probably would try. And, you know, I watched it and I thought about it. I'm like, these creatures are so powerful. And then I started measuring it up to the men that I've seen and been around, and then throughout history. And I'm start thinking like, whoa, why was women treated like slaves in a sense? They had a little more privileges. And I always thought about it. For years, I studied women. And then I realized, okay, when you deny somebody something, or you try to hold them back from being something, you're afraid of what they can become. My beliefs. And I go back to women had to fight for voting, for rights to vote. The man said, hey, look, this is what you're supposed to do and be, and you stick to it. Don't try to argue with that. I know what's right for you. And women had to fight for the basic stuff that men had. Why? What makes you think you a superior being? So I started seeing that. And then I started seeing women get strong and be like, hey, look, I can do all of this. I can take care of all your needs. I can take care of the kids. I can take care of the house. I can work and I can do everything else. Just give me the opportunity. And you know, they fought to do that. And then I watched, it was an era during the crack era, how the woman, the black woman, had to be superwoman and carry the whole household. The husband was on drugs, or the boyfriend was on drugs, in jail, or not there. And she just carried the load. And I'm seeing this over and over. I'm like, this woman, I'm like, put a man in that position. Put the average man in that position. Put the average man, he's not going to be able to take care of no 4-5 kids.
Oh, no.
For one, he can't have kids. His body, no. We can't have him.
Yeah.
We're not that strong, and that's why I think women are the most powerful as beings on this earth. And I wanted them to know that, hey, I talked to my daughters, Demarco Hampton and Dalisa Hampton. You are princesses daughters of queens. Y'all can be whatever y'all want to be because y'all the most powerful being on this earth. That's what I truly believe. And that's based off everything I've seen.
I mean, seeing your mother go through what she went through, I mean, is just, I'm sure that's a big part of where that comes from.
That definitely. And, and then, watching my auntie as well. This woman was so strong. She, her 3 kids, great, all of them. I seen her through the same environment. She made it happen. She struggled through the same projects we came from, and she made sure that they didn't go through that. So you see strong women like that. You rally behind women, and then they carrying their kids. And then you got kids that want to get off into the streets, and they still carrying them. They give so much to the point that they can't do nothing for them. They still trying to fight for equal pay.
Yes.
Come on, it's 2000 and almost 2023. Y'all can't identify these women as what they are. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to touch on with women.
Yeah, I'm sure you think about your mom every day and all the things she did for you. She was up against the world. Demarco, you should be so proud of yourself that you have come out on the other side and have done better than your father and righted the wrongs for yourself. And to come out through that, I can't imagine, just because I've never been through that myself. But by golly, you should be so proud of yourself. I can only imagine, at least I hope you are, for how far you have come to see your shortcomings and to address them, because just admitting shortcomings is the hardest thing to do. I know sometimes it takes me a while. Sometimes I will react a little too quickly to, like, my girlfriend, for instance. And then after I say the thing that I said to her, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I really just say that to her just now? And, I have to get out the words that are, I have to apologize. And I feel so silly because I can't believe I just did that. But it just takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, because, I asked the kids like this. We was talking to 2 youngsters today. They know who they are, 11 years old twins. I was telling them, hey, look, you can get it now, or you can go through what I went through. I'm like, man. But what you were saying, being proud, I feel like this. I feel like Kobe and that game, I forgot what game was. It was when he was on a podium and they said, you should feel good about winning this game. He said, the job is not finished. I understood it, and I feel that way. My job is not finished. I have so much to do, and I haven't even tapped into everything. With brothers like Jeff, the resources are there. It's just crazy. But I really want to, another person I want to give a lot of props to, man, because I really appreciate him as a person. Jim Rowe is one of the greatest human beings I've met, and people don't even know that. People that don't know him, haven't even met him, just will assume he's just this prosecutor that's trying to lock everybody up. And I promise you, you could take 50 people in a community and you could put all of the things that they've done and probably don't even add up to the things that he has done or want to do. So I just love great people, and I do surround myself with good people. And I'm one of those guys. I try to be the best version of myself. And sometimes I fall short, even in relationships. But my intentions are always to not hurt anybody, to try to be right, And my intentions, intentions is everything. My intentions with this podcast is to not glorify the drug life, because, to be honest, I know what it is. It's the hardest money you can make. People think it's easy. It's fast, but it's not easy because too many things come with it. I truly believe that it's a lazy man way out. Once you understood that, nowadays, early on, A lot of people had to do what they had to do to get in a position they get in because a lot of doors wasn't open. I can't blame nobody. My success and my failure lies with me. James Allen said in his book, you are responsible for the good and bad in your life. So when you're not doing right, look at you first.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's a real great principle to follow.
It's in my book. That's the first chapter in my book, getting to know yourself. The second chapter is decision and choices. And it get better and better.
Okay. So you don't have an exact release date yet for the new book, do you?
I'm still, every day I'm in a lab typing it up, you know, fixing things. Yeah, it'll be out real soon, in a couple months.
And, of course, people can go to, is it mycopiousLifestyle.com?
The Kopious.
Or it's the Kopious.
www.thekopiousLifestyle.com.
Okay. Yeah. So will it be for sale there when it is officially out?
Absolutely. Everything going to fall under the Kopious umbrella.
Okay, wonderful. And I know you're on social media too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So people can follow.
People can, you know, they can follow me. They can Facebook page, you know, my name, Demarco Hampton. It's the one with the Kopious shirt on there. Yeah, you know, it is fresh. I try to stay fresh, and I want people to, hey, come shop with me. The quality is good, and
I was
represent excellence.
Thank you, by the way, for he made a very special hoodie for me as well. What color? I'm colorblind, by the way, so I can't tell exactly what color this is. Is it like a cream color?
It's like a tannish cream.
Okay, so I can't see some colors.
Beige,
I can't see.
Like a tannish beige.
Yeah, because
and green and white.
Like the color you're wearing now, it's either yellow or like a neon green, but I'm not really sure.
It's that canary yellow.
I could have came in here and said, "Oh, that's green," but it's not. It's canary yellow. So, and this is super soft. It's almost like a fleece blend, or is it? It's fleece on the inside.
Honestly, that is the best material I've ran across.
Well, thank you so much I'm going to wear this hoodie very proudly, especially now that I know the whole story behind it. So thank you for dropping that off. And anyone can support Kopious Lifestyle, and they can order directly through the kopiousLifestyle.com. And it's Kopious with a K, by the way, just to throw that out there. And I will have, if you look in the description of this episode, I will have the direct link to the website that you can click on, that people can check it out.
What I want people to understand, when you putting on Kopious sweatsuit or a hoodie or a hat, you not representing me. You represent you. You represent the lifestyle that you're striving for. That's what it's about. You want to pursue excellence every day. You want to try to get better every day. And another thing, I took things from a lot of different people, but I'm going to use 3 major people. Kobe Bryant. We born the same day and we the same age. So
no way. Wow, that's cool.
Kobe Bryant, Mayweather. I'm going to just use those 2. Mayweather, his ability to adjust and adapt to anything is what propelled him to the guy that he is. And Kobe, his discipline and his attention to detail and his desire to never let no one outwork him, those things I'm trying to incorporate into my life. And I know if I get that, nothing will be able to stop me. And that's part of how Kopious was created too, putting those guys into that thought. I look at certain people and I look for attributes that set them apart. And with him, to me, his ability to adjust and adapt. If you can adjust and adapt to anything, greatness is your destination. And with Kobe, and if you put that ability with that and a lot more other, man. So that's what I'm trying to incorporate and adopt as my own.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. Anything else that you want to get out there? I know
we got events coming up soon. Early next year. We'll talk about those further through the social media sites.
Sure. But follow the Kopious Lifestyle on social media. You can stay up to date on those things. Mm-hmm. Actually, one thing I'm curious about: how did you and Jeff Davis meet? That's what I want to know.
Perry Lee.
Really?
Perry Lee and I met when I moved to Kankakee in 2nd grade. We had a fight. Perry Lee he had the whole class in awe. So, I met him through Perry Lee. We fought, and after that, me and Perry Lee became best friends. Me and a few of my friends, we would come out to West Harbor where they live. And, Perry he influenced, really, to me, the whole harbor. He was the inside to the outside. You know what I mean? So we would come around there. We would walk miles to visit him. And that's his little brother.
Yeah.
And that's his little brother. And I would spend the night at their house. Him and Diane, his sister's another I watched that woman. That woman is powerful. You probably need to interview her. She's tough.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I stayed with them, Their mother let me stay with them. Maddie, we love Maddie, Mama Maddie. Yeah, so that's how I met him, and I reconnected with him when Andrew Eggleston was doing a co-drive, on social media. And then from then, it's been like I'm with my little brother all the time.
Okay, that's awesome. Another question for you. What are some things that people can do to help the youth in our area, the kids in our area? What are some things that we can do?
Right now, the kids are being indoctrinated with the music. We always have. I didn't believe it then, but I understand it now. But we're being indoctrinated by the music. I think if we can change the trend, I think, and especially the people that have a voice, the rappers, the ones that they listen to and try to emulate, they are the ones, they have a lot of power. If you got 10 of the top rappers saying, we going back to the money, we ain't killing no more. I believe if they pump this, it's turned into a mantra. Hopefully, I don't know, but I know that's how it started. You talking about doing some stuff and, it reverberated throughout the country. I believe that's one way. And I believe if everybody put their feet on the ground and grab one child, I think it'll make a difference. You can't look at the mountain of stuff that need to be done. You could just look what's in front of you and take one step at a time.
Yes, that's what I always say. It's the people you encounter on a day-to-day basis, whether they're strangers or people you're very familiar with. It's how we interact with them on a daily basis. That's how we can make the difference. Demarco, this has been an honor. Thank you so much.
It's been great. I appreciate it. I'm glad you got me here.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the hoodie. And everyone needs to go get one. So
yeah, if you don't got one, you missing out.
That's true.
Yeah,
I agree, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake Lamore. Thank you so much for listening. Also, a special thank you to our patrons for helping make this episode possible, including Karen Bishop, Jake Lee, Jesse Arsenal, Dave Barron, Daryl Damper, Samantha Rocknowski, Lake Iverson, Travis Garcia, Jane Bostwick, Dawn Harrison, Simon Topless, Scott Wright, Carrie O'Connell, Jamie Race, Joanne Berry, Anthony Vicelli, Eric Olson, Carl Earps, Jeff and Rosa Carroll, Teague Dreenan, Sandy and Steve Twait, and Rose Lucky. Now, to become a podcast patron, go to KankakeePodcast.com, click on the Patron tab, and if you pledge $5 or more per month, you'll also hear your name announced on an episode. There's also other rewards like early access to new episodes or extended versions of episodes, discounts on upcoming special events if we have any. Currently we don't, but there's other rewards included monthly. So your monthly pledge is truly appreciated. Our goal right now is to reach $400 per month, and right now we're about halfway from reaching that goal. So please sign up for the patron program today at KankakeePodcast.com. Our theme song is written and performed by Lupe Carroll and recorded by Daniel Bishop.
This river carries